everybody. It's happened.
Oh my God.
It's happened. If you've been listening from podcast number 1, we joked. Ha ha ha, we will do an algorithm hour with MatPat. That'll never happen. And because of how wonderful MatPat is, he's here to do the algorithm hour.
Yay.
Oh my God.
Welcome to the algorithm hour.
It sounds so nice, right? It actually is like, why didn't somebody call something that
Right,
already?
someone needs to start an NPR show. That's the algorithm hour.
Yeah.
So if you're unfamiliar, I am Benny Fine. My brother Rafi Fine's across the way. And this is MatPat from Theorist Media?
Yes, Theorist Media.
Yes!
That's us. Well done.
Because it's not
Thank you.
just the game theorist anymore, guys. It's a
Right.
lot more than that.
Lots
No,
of
it's
theories.
true. We are theorizing about video games, movies, and TV, and we're also doing all sorts of live streaming too.
Yeah. Very early on, like helping YouTube to understand its live streaming capabilities, I feel, with how much you guys dived in to test it in a lot of ways early on, right?
We like to do that in general, is whenever, especially YouTube, is launching some sort of new feature or some sort of new product initiative, we want to be there at least early on to get a sense of how it's going to work, how you can optimize for it, and how it can make the creator experience better. Because one of the nice things that we really like about working with YouTube is just the fact that it's a very receptive platform. I mean, granted, they're always working on their own initiatives, and people have different opinions about that sort of thing. But they're always willing to accept feedback, and they're always right.
You guys, we didn't even really intro the podcast, okay?
Okay.
And already we're diving in. This
I
is
know,
our,
I just got really excited.
I know, I
We like
understand.
talking YouTube.
So this is the FBE podcast, which we do every week now. Releases on Fridays, and but I think on SoundCloud and iTunes the day before, right? I think that's right. But we talk mainly about stuff going on around FBE as a company with very special guests and things like that. We're going to talk a little bit about that this time, but it's primarily going to be all about the algorithm. And what is the algorithm? And I never know how to explain that quickly.
Like generally, it's like this is an hour. It's algorithm hour. Every moment that we take,
I know,
not about the algorithm, is taken away from the hour.
I'm sorry, okay, I'm trying to introduce. So, most of you who listen to this podcast, you're affectionately called the 5% because we know that there's about 5% of the frequent FBE viewers that will bother with listening to an hour-long podcast.
Yes.
So we love you, 5%. But I have a feeling this one might drive in
Maybe
a little bit more than the 5%.
6% we're going for this
Here we
time,
go.
Matt.
Bring it on.
But if you're
pressure's on.
unfamiliar, we did just talk about it briefly, but this is MatPat, who I was looking back. I felt like, oh, we've known you for a bit, but I realized, no, like, you go back to, like, the first Office even, the first time that you filmed with us. It's been actually many years of friendship and colleagueness and things like that.
I know, that's why I'm so surprised you made it such a big deal for me to come on the podcast, because you ask and thou shalt receive, guys. Like, I'm always eager to do things with you.
Well, it is appreciated. We don't expect even YouTubers react. When we did the very first one, we thought it's going to be a one and done. Like, nobody's going to want to come by and like be a part of this thing.
Over 100 episodes later.
Yeah. And so the whole experience of YouTubers React, or the idea of people wanting to partner up and do something together or anything, has been like always a humble like experience of being like, oh really? Like and I think that's a good thing. You don't want to kind of get over the idea of being like, why wouldn't you come on? Instead, it's like, whoa, like it's so cool. And even the whole company was like really excited when we told them like, MatPat's actually going to be like our first YouTuber guest on the podcast. It's like, what?
Well, no, I mean, and especially like as everyone has gotten much more busy in the space, as large channels get offered more and more opportunities, it's harder and harder to carve off time. But for you guys, like as much as I can, I'm always here for you.
Well, same to
we
you.
really appreciate that.
And I gotta say that some of my favorite videos that I've ever done online have actually been reaction videos with you guys across all the theory videos, and there's plenty of ones that I absolutely love. Reacting to the lava challenge, the slime video. There's been a lot of really fun stuff that I could never do on my own channels just by the formats that we have that I'm able to do with you guys, and I just have a blast. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to kind of engage with that stuff.
Stop it.
You're right into
Jason
my...
looks a vomit back there. I love bombing.
So before we dive into what's going to be about an hour-long conversation about what is happening around YouTube when it comes to how you, the subscriber, get serviced videos on your homepage, your logged-in homepage, etc. In terms of understanding what you probably hear a lot of your favorite YouTubers having to talk about things have changed and and hit the bell and how are you going to find that I upload a new video? Is the sub box broken? I feel like all of us say usually not, but you don't really understand what the sub box is some of the time, etc. But before that, we're going to talk a little bit about some stuff around FBE, a little bit what's going on over with Matt's company. But I wanted to ask you a quick question.
Yeah, of course.
When you were first invited to do YouTubers React,
Yes.
Can you walk us through what that was like and then your first impressions of us when we met for the first time on that set?
Wow, put me in the. I thought I was already in the hot seat. Jeez, no. I mean, I gotta say, getting the invite to join YouTubers React was very much a rite of passage. I think there are certain rites of passage in the YouTube community. One of them is obviously the play buttons. You know, getting 100,000 play button, getting the million play button. Now the diamond play button, which is just so darn hard to get.
You're on your way.
I'm getting with time. With time, certainly gonna grind away at it. But the other ones are YouTube Rewind at the end of the year, and then of course being invited onto YouTubers React. And so getting that email was such a huge honor to begin with. I was so nervous, by the way, so incredibly nervous.
I wonder what the episode was.
Epicac was one of them, right?
Ipecac was the very first one. Yes, reacting to a guy vomiting on the street. It was like, wow.
And I remember even when you were drinking it, there was something about like just met you guys, and I'm just drinking this strange liquid.
Yeah, you're like, here's this.
The trust.
I mean, you didn't tell me what it was, but I'm like, this can't be Ipecac. This can't be dangerous at all. So I'm just gonna down it and make a statement
That's
right
a
here
real
now.
classic episode, like in the sense of like I vividly remember being in that room, and then just because the reactions are so huge, because it was this very, oh my god, what's gonna happen? But people were almost vomiting while watching the video. There was a lot of puking was happening. It was epic.
Wow, that's quality. No, but I remember the night before that actually a couple days before, I was studying everyone else's reactions to see what made a good reactor from a bad reactor, and kind of like
There's a lot of variance inside of there.
There really is, and what sort of humor worked really well, what sort of, and it's, you know, it was more for me to kind of like get familiar with the idea of reacting on camera.
Right.
Because
we kind of have like a thing that we help people to know, like, hey, you're going to be doing this thing.
I hate stopping this, but I don't want us to spend too much time on this. But it's also the type of thing that going even back then compared to now, you also were like you were much less frequently like on camera on your channel back then. And I remember even people saying that's what MatPat looks like was a big comment even back then. Because it was much more just the voice on the channel. Because you weren't doing these live streams and some of the other things over the years that you have now grown into doing. So it also was like kind of newer stuff for you.
Everybody knew that sexy voice.
Everyone knows that sexy voice.
It was the big face reveal. It was on YouTubers React.
We exposed you.
You did. Oh no.
Okay, so we are gonna jump in. The questions that you guys had for kind of the company, we're gonna bank them for next week because we want to save time to go into like all of this geeky.
As in from last week.
All this geeky YouTube stuff. But Roth, you want to talk a little bit about some of the episodes that came out this week? And
really quick. And so I'm not even going to grab the laptop. Just really quick. One was the elders reacting to "In a Heartbeat," and my God, that video generally is amazing. And it was a really interesting thing of putting it out and the nonstop. Everybody wants to see every generation reacting to this thing, but everybody was really positive. It was like 100,000 likes,
which we never get
in a day and a half or something. And the only things that maybe get that sometimes, but it takes like 2 days at least, is like YouTubers React. But it has to be like a huge episode. So it was just nuts. And so we're definitely like hearing the audience loud and clear that they want to see other generations reacting. We also heard that they want Dan and Phil to be reacting, and only Dan and Phil. But that's every video that we put out.
I was gonna say, isn't that every single
video we put out? There are so many comments about like, and it's like they're what do you want us to do? And then they'll say, get them on Skype, like get them on, call them on FaceTime. It's like, but anyways, so just generally that was really cool. And then another one that was really fun was the laugh challenge this week on the React channel. It doesn't happen very often, but everybody got X'd out. Everybody laughed, and the audience really loves it when that happens. So do we, because everybody's sending in things from the audience, and then we're trying to pick the best ones, and then hoping. But what was great is that everybody was looking back and leaving comments about like how they know all the episodes that's happened. And whenever
Which is so cool. They pay attention.
I do have
There's
to
been
grab
so many
because
episodes.
I wanted to be able to do this in case people wanted to know. So it's episode 7, 19, 30, 51 were the ones before this. But that, I didn't even know that except for the audience. And that's what's amazing is when you have those moments with your audience that like they're that tuned in, they care that much, they're invested in that way. Like I know one fan at one point sent in a letter that we read out at the company meeting that was a like 20 pages worth of spreadsheets that had cataloged every single person that's been in every single laugh challenge and how many they've won, how many they've lost, and they've cataloged the whole thing. It was just like, this is awesome. Oh, and
so
we'll reveal
people
here that-
always well. Last week people were saying, yeah, spoil some stuff, tell us things that are coming up. So there's been a lot of reaction of late, and we can't always pull it off. But we did Kids React to Motley Crue not too long ago, and the drummer Tommy Lee of Motley Crue was just here filming to react to
and
the
he
reaction.
is an awesome guy. He was like really fun, and and we've heard from the producers that he was a great reactor. Speaking
Yeah,
of,
I think the
being
producer
like,
would say.
good.
I think he joked with him afterwards, saying, "Do you want to just be a regular adults reactor because you're like that good?"
Yeah.
So that'll be really fun. That'll hopefully be out by the middle of the month. So that's exciting. What about on your side? Like, what's the latest or something that you're seeing from the audience from
Good
what
or
you've been
bad?
doing?
Wait, before we hop to that, I'm really curious. So, who was the #1 laugh challenge winner?
This was a while ago, and I'm not.
I can tell you on the YouTuber side, it is
Shane.
Captain Sparkles
And Shane
Dawson never lose.
Yeah.
Really?
Though Captain Sparkles, because I was just
He was
seeing
just
him,
in one again.
and well, that's I don't think it's come out yet. But he on his own channel finally cracked on something.
Oh.
Really? And so he admitted to it to me, being like, "The pug got me." That's my Jordan impression.
That's pretty good. It's pretty good, Jordan.
Love Jordan.
But yeah, like speaking of back then, of like when you're like, oh, I was looking at people how they reacted. I'm like thinking back, and I'm like, well, you could hate everything, Shane Dawson, like because very hard to please that man, love him, or like Harley, who totally let himself like open up in a different way that you weren't even used to seeing him, like different amazing.
We got to get to the algorithm stuff,
I'm
guys.
sorry.
I know,
Okay,
but there's
sorry.
so many other
Okay.
cool things to talk about here, right?
There is.
You know who would win overall though? Dan and Phil. I mean, let's admit, maybe
stop
if you
it.
guys included them in more episodes, they
suck.
would totally be the winners.
But is there
Let's be
anything
honest.
from your channel that has like been going on that was a cool little tidbit that you were like, oh man, that was so cool that you saw that, or?
The actually, I'm really excited. I'm working on a theory right now of this underground game that I think might have the potential to be the next FNAF. Or it's kind of like FNAF meets DHMIS. So for those who are uninitiated, it's Five Nights at Freddy's, which you guys have had multiple people react, like multiple episodes
of
of
those
reacting.
even.
Right, exactly. As well as Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared, which was another big one for you guys.
Yeah.
It's this web series called Petscop, where it's a simulated Let's Play of a made-up game from the PlayStation era. In the gaming community, there's like the lore of Ben Drowned, which is a haunted
Yeah.
Legend of Zelda game, right?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
my friend got me this game, and weird things started to happen, and all of a sudden there's a kid who died who's haunting this cartridge. Well, this person has taken it upon himself to create like a faux game called Petscop. That has actual like haunting elements to it, and so as he does this Let's Play, it's all these like weird scripted events happening. There's some sort of like weird hidden mystery underneath the surface of the game. So it's this weird fusion of like
video-based?
and it's video based,
But
yeah.
like a Let's Play.
Exactly, yeah, and so it's a
Smart.
it's really
I love
smart.
that.
It's a completely legitimately done, like straight-faced Let's Play of this guy who's like discovering weird elements, but obviously like the game is kind of scripted to have these weird
Yeah.
things involved.
Sounds like
in it.
it has creepypasta kind of elements,
yes,
and like
very
so it
much
has
so.
all that
That's
that
gonna be
hits a
good.
lot of good layers.
It does. I'm really excited
we'll have
about
to
it.
check it out.
You'll
Yeah,
hit it,
I've been
then
digging
the
deep.
reaction will
Yeah,
come afterwards.
we'll let you get your theory out, then we'll do a reaction.
Great, perfect.
Also, I'm curious, like, what is the setup right now at your company? Like, is there?
This will be the
'cause
last thing.
This will be the last thing. But we talk a lot about the company here, and people have a lot of
Right.
fascination in
But you
terms of
have
like,
too,
oh, what you've
yeah.
grown. So, like, what is kind of like, what does the company look like today?
Yeah, of course. So we're still really small for the most part. We have a lot of freelancers, especially on the editing side. But we have, 6 full-time people? Me, Steph, and then someone on the production side, someone on the visual design side, and then like a permanent PA to help out with just kind of odd jobs. We have 2 full-timers on the consulting side, and then everyone else is freelancing either as an editor, or we're currently looking and auditioning a couple of researchers to help out, just because YouTube
Makes
has
sense.
right.
Yes.
Just because YouTube has cranked up the frequency which we have to release videos in order to stay relevant, and doing videos that take 100 hours a week is just brutal. So we're kind of auditioning some people right now to hopefully kind of take some of the load and also expand out, because I'm only an expert in so many different franchises. So
Right.
you know, if it
'Cause
expands us out,
you've
into
done
new
some stuff with like Wisecrack has been doing some
Yep.
stuff. So you're finding even some people being like other great production companies and studios out there that are making stuff online. Shout out to Wisecrack, they're awesome too.
Yeah.
To find ways to still make enough content
Yeah, exactly.
without being so in house and completely, etc.
Right. Yeah, and creating partnerships that really work for everyone. Right. So yes, they help deliver a script or help me with research, but then we're able to kind of promote them back, or you know, if it's freelancer, obviously payment and things like that. Or a lot of times, a lot of our writers will go on to produce kind of partner shows on the channel and kind of evolve up their own content and get spotlight in the channel, which then helps them grow their brands, and then they move off. So like it works out that way. But at its core, it really boils down to, we have the production side of things, which are running, you know, the Game Theory, Film Theory, and GT Live, and then we have the consulting half. And that's kind of the reason I bring that up, is because that really segues to the algorithm talk, right? See, I know where you guys are going, and it's really nice because on the consulting half, we're helping out different brands, other top channels, really navigate what it means to be successful in digital video, primarily on YouTube, yes, but also, you know, across the board, we consult with other social media platforms as well. And it is everyone from AAA game developers to movie studios to more traditional brands to YouTube channels that are some of the fastest growing right now. So
thanks to you guys.
Yeah, I like to think so. But I'm not gonna say that, but you can say it. But no, so we work with a wide variety of people, and then the cool thing about it too is we have our channels that we own and operate now, that we are able to run experiments on, look at the data around in and of
A/B
themselves.
testing, baby.
Exactly. Do A/B tests on everything from end screens to programming cadences, and then that informs kind of the stuff that we're doing on the consulting side. We're able to look at the data of those channels, and then that kind of informs what we're doing. And so it's this really cool synergistic cycle where, you know, the tests that we're running on one side inform the other, and the data that we're getting on the other side kind of inform the production side.
Yeah.
Pretty awesome. So something else we do on the podcast is we always come up with a hashtag that you then use in the comments to get a shout out the next time out, and it usually is at the end.
Okay.
Because it's like, oh, you listened all the way through. But I saw a good amount of comments that I think was a fun idea of like, you should put the hashtag somewhere in the middle, so then you actually listened maybe and didn't just skip. So I think we're gonna go hashtag algorithm. I feel like that makes sense.
Hashtag algorithm or algorithm hour.
Algorithm hour.
Yeah.
Hashtag algorithm hour. So if you really listen to this whole thing right now, you will know hashtag algorithm hour for the shout out. So we're gonna jump right into it, and I'm gonna kind of take a little bit of let me lead the conversation stance for the people that I consider to know the most about this, which is Rafi and Matt. When everyone asks me, I'm like, who knows? Well, MatPat and Rafi probably know more about this than anybody. So again, this is an overview, as I kind of wrote down for myself, of like talking about the algorithm, the recommendation engine that is that determines many things, like what will show up in search related videos, but most important to the creators on YouTube, it's how's it going to show up on the homepage when you log in, and are you actually being told, and in what order and in what placement in your recommendation section is the video being thrown right in front of your face or not, is what I would say is the most important thing right now, but could be argued. But so can we talk about the shift last year? Because all of this kind of really sprung up last year, where the recommendation engine had this big change, and that's where all the views across almost every channel just dipped. So I guess we'll just start there, and I'll back away.
Not views on every channel. The way that we talked with YouTube about it really early on, before YouTube was really going like, there's a problem. We were like, listen, please. There's like something going really weird on YouTube right now with all the data that we are doing at the company all the time. And but so depending on what even YouTube's argument was, but some people are doing fine. It's like, that's not really the point. It's like, of course, no matter what, you're going to have some people that are on major rises. And the example I was always using was Liza Koshy. Like, I was just like, Liza Koshy is doing fine. I understand that she's on the rise, just like Fred or Shane Dawson or Roy William Johnson or Annoying Orange. Like, all this time, there's always going to be somebody on the up. It's more of the people that have been stabilized and such. There's something going on, and we don't know what it was that has gone on and gone on and gone on to finally, I think, center out into two things. Tell me if I'm wrong around the watch time becoming so much more important than retention time or anything else in the algorithm, along with the idea of the recommendation engine on your homepage or wherever you are, recycling, showing new things much faster than holding on to content for a long time like it used to.
Yep.
Was those pretty much the two main changes?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and it probably bears kind of us talking briefly to those who aren't
I know.
initiated.
I'm going to note for myself to explain what's watch time versus retention time.
Retention time versus watch time. So do you want to take that?
No, you please.
So the way that I define this is retention time is the overall percent that you watch the video, right? So if it's 5 minutes, if it's 10 minutes, doesn't matter. It's, did I watch 70% of it? Did I watch the whole thing? Did I click off in the first couple seconds and only watch like a percent or two of it? And that was a large factor in kind of the early days when YouTube switched over to more length of time being watched of videos.
Hoping for people to watch more and surfacing those things to people to hope that they'll stay on the website as long as possible.
Exactly. So, and the thing I always like to say is YouTube has a problem, right? Which is they need a scalable way, an algorithmic way to determine what makes good content from bad content. And when you're programming a computer, how do you do that? And it used to be based on views because it was like, hey, if this video organically got
a
bunch of views and a bunch of shares,
to watch.
Yeah, it got people to watch. It must be good. People are sharing it on Facebook, what have you. But quickly, people learned to game the system through click farms, boob thumbnails, React girls, things like that. And so
Reply girls.
Yes. Thank you. Yes, sorry, not React girls.
Who are they?
Is that not a format that you guys have? What channel have I been watching? So then they switched it. They're like, hey, maybe this isn't a good way to determine good versus bad, so let's switch it to retention time. And hey, if someone is watching a video for longer, that must mean it's meeting their expectations. It must be retaining them for a while. They're enjoying it. They're not clicking off, so that must be a good video.
Right, in a lot of ways, that's actually a good thing. Like
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
yes, it ends up making things harder to find that are like, and premium content and short form content, animation, et cetera, are very hard to get surfaced because how does that end up finding its way when there's things that are so long? But it also then helps against things like clickbait. It helps against covers of music videos trying to be looking like they're the real music video, different things that it does then end up weighing something better than something else. It does work algorithmically.
So they made the switch to the watch time from retention time and other factors like views.
Right, and watch time difference.
Yeah, so watch time, by contrast, is the pure number of minutes being watched, whether that's on an individual video or across an entire channel, right? So now all of a sudden you can already see that if YouTube is optimizing for pure watch minutes, the amount of minutes that this person has sat in front of the computer and watched these videos, you're going to optimize for longer form videos that get people to sit there and watch, or formats that automatically get people to watch long compilations of things, right? So this is why you saw a huge influx of Vine compilations, top 100 Vine compilations or whatever, where, people are going to watch it because every couple seconds there's going to be a new cut, there's going to be a new joke, there's going to be a new punchline, and it's hard for people to click off of something that frenetic, and even though the first 3 Vines didn't catch me, the 4th one did, and I'm hooked for another couple seconds. That's also why top 10s around that time had a huge explosion, because humans by nature are more inclined to click on something with the number 10 in it, and it gives us a finite story. It's a long form format that is broken down into 10 shorter segments. Everyone wants to see what number 1 is, and so those drove huge amounts of watch minutes. And of course, that's also when you started to see, a resurgence of long form blogs, long form vlogs,
long form unboxing videos, long form cosplay for children with Elsa Spider-Man,
right?
And different things that are just really long, could be watched in many countries, and that way you're not even barred by only being a US thing. You could be very like Mr. Bean like or something.
And so the impact of that then becomes, I think you can see in a lot of content, ourself included, we're now like we've increased the length of our videos. If you compare it to 2 years ago to now, every episode is usually close to 10 minutes or over 10 minutes.
And
when
it
in the
doesn't
past,
have to do with getting ads.
No.
It has to do with watch time.
Yeah.
That's the second ad is nice, but it's all about needing people to watch and making the episode. So if it's like, do they know it, or if it's like guess that. These things have like 5 sections to them or 7 sections to them, and you just stretch those out, and people want to get to watch more. And it's not like they're not like being entertained by it. It's, if anything, we've always felt that we needed to be shorter for the longest time online. I remember back when Benny and I used to have a thing back being early viral video creators. We were like, this can't be longer than a minute if we want to go the most viral.
Right.
And then it became 2 minutes, and 2 minutes was okay. And when we would get to like 2:06, we'd be like, absolutely not. And this was before YouTube, before everything. And we were like, nope, it won't do well. And then once it was YouTube, and once an audience was truly there, all of a sudden there were all these people that were like, can you make it longer? And we were like, oh, they're there. We don't have to like find the virality anymore. And all of a sudden that's, ever since then, for 8 years or whatever, it's been, content's been able to get longer on YouTube.
So if
and
we're
now
to-
it's kind of for a different
So
reason.
if we're to a place where you need to make longer videos, it's obviously not going to be the only answer. Make a video that's long, and then you still can be like, well, I'm making videos that are 15 minutes long, and I'm still, no one's getting recommended it. So do we want to transition to the second part of like how things are not staying as long, and I guess even view velocity in the like when you upload and things like that. So what are the other factors beyond the length of your video?
Yeah. Well, and real quick to kind of just cap what you had just said about virality also changed, right? So this was also at the time when other platforms were being very strict about their own viewership, right? So Twitter launched video, Facebook started launching video, things like that. And so even though videos were getting shared on Facebook, those posts were seeing absolutely zero reach because
what they deprioritize those in your news feed.
Exactly.
Because they weren't uploaded directly
Correct.
to Facebook.
They everyone wants someone to stay, that individual viewer to stay on their platform watching as long as possible. The other thing that merits mentioning real quick before we talk about kind of that faster refresh rate is the reason why YouTube did this, I think. And this is just a theory. It's never been confirmed by anyone there. But it's a theory.
Yeah, it's like,
I saw that smile creeping onto your face. Just a theory.
I just imagine like your little character view that you pop up with a little smirk. That's what I think.
So the reason why I suspect is, even though retention time worked really well for getting people to watch videos on YouTube and had a lot of good for the platform, ultimately YouTube is trying to train people to watch YouTube like they do TV. Turn it on, sit back, and watch for hours on end. Sit back and watch as long as possible. And every time a video, and YouTube is different than any other platform online because it's a decision-based platform. You know, it's not a news feed where I'm just scrolling through my Twitter feed or my Facebook feed and, you know, scrolling up. YouTube, every video that I choose to watch is something that I actively have to choose to click on.
Which always blows my mind that many people really do decide to click. In like when you get a channel that's working and you have so many people within a day that you're like, that many people actually clicked on this thumbnail.
Thing,
That's why you got to make some good thumbnails.
Right, yeah, it is. It makes a huge difference. It's the front door of your video, and if it's not good, you could have the Citizen Kane of YouTube and no one will ever see it. But it is one of those things where every time someone has to make a choice, you lose people, right? Yeah. So, you know, I watched a YouTuber's react. YouTube autoplay might give me something that might interest me. There might be something in the recommended algorithm that might interest me, but maybe not. And so every time I have to make a new decision on the platform, I have the opportunity to leave. And I think what YouTube did in changing it to this long form watch minutes algorithm is it forces people, like people are much more likely to sit there
Less
and watch
decisions.
it's fewer decisions with overall more watch minutes on YouTube, right? So if I'm sitting there watching a 15-minute long vlog, that kept me for 15 minutes as opposed to a 3-minute long comedy sketch or a 5-minute long reaction video or what have you.
And they probably A/B tested that and saw that those making the 3-minute retention times did not keep people as long, even though people loved that show at 3 minutes. It's not ever going to match the other. What did you ask, Ben?
I'm talking about view velocity in terms of like talking about like how, because it's not just going to be that you have a popular channel that you're subscribed to and they made a 15-minute video, hence it'll go to your recommendation page. Not for sure, right?
Yeah, I'm interested in what you have to say. This is one of our biggest things that we have here and that we teach the producers and what we have to always be thinking about within that first minute, 5-minute, 10-minute, and first hour is going to then not just help in the beginning and see, I'm interested in what you're going to say, but also then what how it's going to rank in SEO overall. When you search on YouTube, search engine optimization on YouTube, it's going to help what's ranking there. It's going to help with the related video.
The
it's
most
showing
important
up on the
in
right.
theory.
Look at it. We can all do it.
But that first hour seems to set it all up.
We'll set it all up, and also it's going to potentially tell the recommendation engine subscribers of this channel seem to be clicking on this, sticking around. We're going to recommend it to more of this channel subscribers because of the behavior in the first hour.
Yeah, but what have you been diving in for that, and how it surfaces to people versus not on their homepage?
Yep, absolutely.
When you're subscribed.
Of course.
Yeah.
So to what you said earlier about kind of this faster refresh rate on YouTube, right? So YouTube also wants people to constantly be watching YouTube and finding something that interests them, right? And so part of all of these changes have been to make sure that videos have a much shorter lifespan than they used to. A lot of channels, I'm assuming yours, definitely Game Theory and Film Theory, were really solidly built
library,
in library
was
content.
huge,
Suggested video content was a huge reason why we were able to sustain ourselves, because those would get tremendous amounts of suggested video traffic. When all of these changes started to happen, that went away, or at least was greatly diminished. In a lot of
I think what we saw was a diminish of the latest videos. That was the main thing. And then, yes, there was some lowering of others, but I think that for various reasons of like our SEO and channel page ranking just generally for being on the platform for so long and having such virality, like so many of the episodes that we've done, and so the channel overall has this insane SEO ability because
but newer content does not get
now,
the view rates
so I
that
think
it
those
used to.
old ones
The old
still
ones
are
I think,
holding
rank
strong.
Good.
Like
Okay.
Elders React to Eminem is still hanging strong with the Eminem search, you know? But yes, anything now, we all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it was like 2 days and then views stop unless it then does get into SEO somehow or we share it a lot.
Well, the other thing for you guys to remember, though, is you're talking Eminem, right? The reason why your Eminem video is working well is, think about Eminem. All of his stuff is short form. It's all 2 minute, 3 minute, 5 minute long songs. You guys have I'm assuming that's a slightly longer video.
Right. So it's beating it out a little bit.
And it's beating it out, right. So
Right,
you,
yes.
from a watch minutes perspective, that
We've
video is
held
able
strong
to beat
because
out.
of that too, right?
Exactly. You are able to beat out Eminem. And so, yeah, YouTube wants to make sure that your video is being suggested against all of those Eminem videos because you're the video that's going to win out on a watch minutes perspective.
Across the site, no doubt, this was a huge thing, and like anybody that didn't have like that ability, where like all of our old videos have been featured on like 50 different websites, and like all this different stuff that Google likes. Other people like, the videos of theirs all of a sudden, for various reasons, from watch time to whatever, fell off from when they were getting so many views on them, and then everything else started beating it out.
Yeah. So going back to kind of the homepage, and especially the logged in homepage, what YouTube does in kind of that first hour, and it seems second hour, it's unclear where exactly it cuts off. At this point, we're seeing a lot of kind of like uptick in the second hour and then the drop off. Is they'll release that video to a subset of your subscribed viewership, right?
JC, you've heard us talk about this.
Yeah, you're right. Oh, his mind's being blown as we talk. Yeah, it's kind of like a test case. Again, YouTube is
They're
constantly
testing.
A/B testing stuff, right? And so it wants to see, okay, how effective is this video at getting this channel's existing subscribers to click?
And even the ones that already are, like, you have tons that have now already been decided that they don't watch you anymore.
Exactly, yes.
It's the ones that still do watch
Yeah,
you.
the
that
still active
They're trying to
subscribers.
see if those people that you have left, that they haven't deemed worthless
Right.
from your subscriber base,
That's
how
the thing,
many
no
of
one
them?
listening to this is any of those people.
Right.
But this is why we'll run into viewers, and I'm curious if you had a similar experience, where there'll always be an occasional viewer that will come up and say, "Man, I love your channel. Why have you not uploaded in months?" And it's because the algorithm, because their
Doesn't
own
suggest
behavior
it.
for too long, stopped watching the channel, that it will literally get caught in a loop where they will never be recommended the video ever again on their homepage, and they don't know that the subscription area exists.
Right, exactly. So unless you have that one exceptional video
That pops it back
that
up,
pops
right,
everyone
yeah.
up, for us on our channel, it's a Five Nights at Freddy's theory, which is what
That every
reactivates
once in a
most
while, you're
people.
just like, we gotta just do it.
Right, because now all of a sudden what that does is it gets it tells YouTube this is a video that everyone's going to click on. So that remaining fan base that is still very active in our subscribership, make sure that you share this as widely as possible and get as many people to click on it and watch it, and tell the algorithm, yes, I'm still interested in this channel. Yes, I still want to receive notifications and I want to click. But if you, in the event that you do have a poor thumbnail, a lackluster title, all of that stuff is automatically immediately affecting, hey, YouTube says we serve this to your subscribers, not a high percentage of them clicked, so we're going to diminish the actual visibility of it, and it's going to die on the vine.
And this is why
that's the thing, it die depending, like, because we tend to see, like, we do get a lot of people that do go to the subscription feed.
Of course, yep.
So there are a good amount of people that go there, but it's pretty much like, I'm interested maybe depending on the person, but for us, I think it's pretty much half and half unless something's doing really well on the homepage. So it definitely still will get, like, viewership, but it's very specifically to that homepage where the idea of you being able to get really surface to a lot of your subscribers is the hope that it's just doing so well, and you better do really well in the first hour. Otherwise, you're done.
Well, and this is why
forever.
I think, and I want to talk about this later, but I'll bring it up now. Like, this is why when you're a channel like ours and many others that do a lot of different things, even for you, because it depends on what is the topic of your theory video, it ends up becoming very difficult to fully accurately predict things anymore beyond certain things you know are going to get at least a certain base. But like, it's why we talked about this last week on the podcast. Kids React as a format is the least popular by so much more than it used to be, because when it used to get served to more of the subscriber base, if they see it a lot, there's a higher percentage chance that they will click to a degree. But now, because the really engaged audience are not that age, if the topic's not right, even some of the 5% admitted, yeah, I don't watch as much Kids React. We had a Teens Reactor on the podcast that used to be on Kids React admitting that she never watches Kids React. So that happening has resulted in that becoming sometimes a half the views of any of the other formats, when just 2 years ago, that couldn't be the case. All the videos kind of were weighted equal, but not anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, I think, one of the biggest struggles and challenges for anyone working on YouTube at this point is either you have to have a really solid understanding of your programming slate and your programming cadence, where, hey, we still want to reach out and do new formats, cover games or franchises that might get us new audience.
People don't know who they are yet, and you want to help them, but you know your audience isn't going to click on it as much. And that also then, if it underperforms, it makes the whole channel and your other videos underperform too.
Which YouTube will never fully admit to, but we know there's collateral damage from putting out this podcast on the channel because of just how it's getting a 12th of the views. It's definitely impacting other videos.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, it's definitely impacting, programming slates for us, where we have a very strict order of things, where for every 2 or 3 experimental videos, I need to go back to kind of one of our wheelhouse franchises of Five Nights at Freddy's, Mario, Pokemon, things like that I know a large percentage of the subscribership are always really eager for. And then that allows me another 2 weeks or so to do like a Petscop or, a Death Stranding, or some of these smaller indie titles that are exposing kind of these new titles to other people, spreading the good word, trying to find new eyeballs who are interested in that sort of content and bring them into the fold. But it's a very strict cadence that you have to follow at this point.
And I'm sure you see it. We see it too, of like, you can see when you've gone a little too long and you start seeing the snowball. Like we call it either the self-fulfilling prophecy to YouTube, when we say like, it's just going to, if we keep putting these out, it's just, even though these people want to watch the stuff, because they'll be like, no, they're just not wanting to watch you. It's like, no, it's that it just stops sending it. And then even people that loved you just don't get sent anymore because they decided not to watch one, or the algorithm decides, because of the smaller test group, that even though these are all super fans, every single one of them are super fans, but because these super fans in the first 5 minutes, half of them decided not to click on this one just for whatever reason, all these other super fans don't even get the opportunity,
because they happen to live in another time zone. By the time they logged in, the recommendation engine won't recommend to them, which is something that YouTube also is not fully ready to admit, where they still will call every subscriber a snowflake, and that if there is a super fan that watches every video of yours, it will know, and they will still get sent it, and we don't think that's true.
Did I tell you what our test is? I think I might have mentioned that we're like, we were going to do it a while ago. We felt like maybe we don't have to. Now we're like, again, after we did go through a little bit of a time period where we were testing some more things out, trying this and trying that, and we started seeing the self-fulfilling prophecy, or the snowball effect. We started seeing this problem. We then were like, you know what, we really do have to prove this thing. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to build super fan channels. So what those channels are going to do, it's going to be like 5, and we're going to do different things with each of them to some degree, of like,
that's cool.
one that's subscribed to only two channels, just FBE and React.
Yep.
Then we'll have a channel that has 10 subscribed channels, 20 subscribed channels, 100 subscribed channels. Each one of these channels, all they will do, each of them, they'll only watch FBE and React.
Yep.
So when an episode comes out, within the first 5 minutes, they're going to watch the entire episode from beginning to end. Perfect retention time, perfect watch time, and we want to see if every video, after we do that for a month or something, then when we release an episode like the podcast, will it not show up on the homepage?
Yep.
And it won't. But YouTube doesn't believe that right now.
I'm incredibly excited to see the result.
Yeah, I know, right?
Because I actually, it's funny that you say this, because I actually did a similar experiment.
I do it with my own account, and it messes up.
Yeah, right. It's if it's a personal account, and if you're doing it on your own, like it's hard to maintain kind of that cadence and kind of that
Versus
level
it being
of
like a
regimentedness.
job.
Yeah, right. In
Someone's
order,
job
right?
here is going to be to make all those channels. You realize that,
Of course, and to watch those videos. But no, I did a similar experiment. I think it was 3 years ago. So obviously the results would be drastically different at this point. But I was very curious. If you do hardcore watch every single video that this channel uploads, and then all of a sudden you stop watching it, how long before YouTube stops sending you those subscription or how long before YouTube stops kind of serving those to you on homepage and suggested? And it had a variable length based on frequency of upload and this and that. But I'm sure nowadays it's a much faster cadence, and I'm sure that it is much more selective over the types of formats that are being served out. So like you said, the podcast.
Tests are like so geeky, like just because I love whenever I hear any YouTuber, like recently Boogie, love him so much, and he was just going through some tough times because of his surgery and everything. But it's like you hear things, and I want to be like, oh, why can't YouTube build a simulator? You should build an algorithm simulator.
Like this could be the app that like works, like for like some of the gamers will make games. No, we make the algorithm.
YouTubers like with
I love simulators. My whole thing with video games over my life, I have no
simulators.
time for them at all. But I'm a sports fan, but I don't like playing sports games. But I love the simulators. So I would simulate 120 baseball seasons when I was a teenager, just using the computer.
You would.
Anyway,
That's amazing.
But like when
That's great.
Boogie mentions okay, I got to make sure that I'm making my videos I banked a bunch of videos while I'm going to be at surgery and before I get better and everything. And so you basically have this whole situation that I want to be like, just like you just said about 3 years ago, I want to understand truly, like, when does the fall off start to happen? All these things that are hypothetical because nobody's doing these tests, and who would want to?
Right.
It's not like all of a sudden you're going to go, you know what, for our consultant business, we're going to stop uploading for 3 weeks and just see what happens.
Yeah.
No, you would never be able to do that.
Right.
But I wish that we could see each of these kinds of things to actually not just see what happens, but I think it's the same thing that you do. It's what we do. It's like trying to help YouTube understand, which is helping the community, because all we do with all this information is like every time I have YouTubers react, we talk with everybody about these things that they don't know about.
Yep.
And like we have phone calls with people trying to help them to understand what's going on with their channel. So these kinds of things are like, I wish that we could know all those tests and all these ways, but man, who has the time? And there's no way to do it.
Right, it's hard, but that's a big reason why we're so passionate about the consulting half of what we do. Is it doesn't earn nearly as much money as what we're doing on the production side, but it's one of those things that we feel is really important. Because digital video, and especially YouTube, is very complicated. It's very hard, and no one has the time. If you're an independent creator, you don't have the time to run those tests. You don't have the time to run back, or maybe you don't even have the knowledge to go back
correct.
into your
Even
analytics.
what are you supposed to be collecting? What does your data even mean? Even that by itself, the amount of creators that I've walked through their analytics suite, even on the very basics of ways, they go, "Oh my god," because they just
even
didn't
know
know
they
how
have
to
it
read
there.
it.
Yeah.
Right, because we're creative types, and very few are actually data-driven or able to kind of see the numbers, see the
I always
charts, and
loved
translate
math.
them.
Were you a math kid?
Of course, I'm a huge math nerd.
Yeah,
have you
exactly.
seen my channel? I mean, seriously. I just calculated that in Mario Maker you can have 10 to the 12,431 power levels total made.
God.
So yeah, super math nerd.
Awesome.
But no, and so and same thing with brands too. We see this time and time again when we're working with different companies who are like, hey, we recognize YouTube is a valuable platform. We recognize this is where the future of entertainment is, and we're investing millions of dollars into programming, but it doesn't perform.
Right.
Why?
Yeah.
And we're able to hop in and help them, hopefully help them with kind of navigating that space, understanding the platform better, and in our opinion, all ships rise, right? We're empowering
exactly.
creators of all scales and all
Always.
sizes to create better and get more returns off of this platform.
And I think that's still just the thing of like how to get the word out. There's always those things because we have this good situation with YouTubers React where we do end up with a wide swath of creators that we then try to do the best we can. And you've been experiencing it too, but it's not usually this stuff of like, can we in 20 minutes or so try to update them, make them understand, hear what their problems are, to both voice it back to YouTube, but also to be like, okay, let me help you, let me realize. And there's only so much time in the day to really help on an ongoing basis, but they don't even know. Yep. And so many channels start dying off and they are saying the wrong reasons as to why. They don't even know how to pivot. And some of them could save their channel if they just started doing very basic of things, which the main thing I suggest to everybody now is that first hour. And like, it sucks depending on what your life is, but you need to be there when the video goes live so you can be at the ready before it's too late to try to change the title or try to make a change, because it will potentially make all the difference in the world for many videos that you upload.
Yeah, one of the processes that we've started here is that like there is something called live coverage, which is like some people being on it, like a producer that was working on that episode, and then somebody from the social team that like, you know, the video is going live, making sure that's all going right, just with the video going live and all that. But then you have some like dealing with the idea that, is it performing okay? And having a moment to basically sit there. And also now this is tied into the number one actual reason of doing it is to like comment back to the fans and like be there. And that's been the most fun aspect of it, of being like, oh, we're there for the first 30 minutes, like replying to everybody. But it's like, okay, if we're seeing the underperformance and we know what underperformance looks like compared to other episodes, we literally change the thumbnail right then and there. We change the title right then and there. And we've literally seen, we have things, and we even like are very proud of it at the company whenever we change it. And then we're able to literally look at the minute by minute, the real time analytic, that if anybody is a YouTuber that watches, like if you're not utilizing your minute by minute real time in the analytics, I love that thing so much. Even though right now it's glitching and we're working with YouTube to be like, they don't even realize, and you gotta love YouTube, but like right now it keeps, it gets to like the 40-minute mark, and then it figures itself out finally of how many views you were having the whole time. But it used to be that at the 10-minute mark, it was every time at the 10-minute mark, you would be able to see what your episode's looking like and how many views it's getting per minute. Now it takes like 40 minutes sometimes for it to then go, oh yeah, at the 10-minute mark, it was actually making this, and so it goes all the way up. But we have done it where like, we're at the 13-minute mark, we switch something, we get a new thumbnail, and then all of a sudden, boom. And you literally see it happen, and it changes the entire scope where you could go, wow, this is probably going to get 400,000 views or whatever, and then all of a sudden change it to being like, nope, you can already imagine and know that it's going to be getting 1 million.
Right.
And it's crazy that, like, if we just didn't make that change in that moment and being there when the video goes live and watch how it's doing, but I think people don't know how to watch, like, watching your likes per minute and watching your views per minute gives you that idea of knowing what you usually get versus now and going, maybe something's wrong, maybe something's different.
Is there anything else on your side that you notice something's wrong?
Well, the other crazy thing about this whole situation is, and a reason why people aren't watching those sorts of metrics is because it's directly counter to what YouTube is telling them, which I think is the other challenge of this situation, where we will go into plenty of meeting rooms, especially with brands who have had YouTube's attention. We had a trip out to New York a week ago, and you know, they've been kind of under YouTube's care for a while, but they hired us on because they were interested in what we had to say. And the recommendations that we're making in the room, they're like, YouTube has told us the exact opposite of that, but we are inclined to trust you because you guys, you know, this is your livelihood, you're watching the data all the time. But stuff around and very specifically this example of YouTube has told us, don't change the thumbnail or title within the first 24 to 48 hours because it'll throw off everything in the system. And we're like, that couldn't be, I'm like, and we look them straight in the eye and we're like, that couldn't be further from the truth.
Right. If anything, sometimes, like, there's been the opposite theory, which has been that it actually resets things to some degree.
Right.
That some people have thought that, like, oh, it kind of, like, tries it again in the system to a little bit more. And I don't know. I can't really say anything to that. But because we've seen results, I sometimes think, like, oh, man, I made this change even 3 hours after or something sometimes. And all of a sudden you see it then working then. And so I've kind of gone, does it? Because it's kind of given up on itself. And maybe sometimes it does just give it a little bit of a push. I don't know.
Yeah. But it's the challenge of it is these experts from YouTube are going out and spreading misinformation about their own platform, which is it's tough. And I understand why it's happening, because at this point, you know, we've been doing it for years and we've been running experiments for years. You guys are the same. And so we have an understanding of the platform, the way it's evolved, the way the viewers interact with it, the way the algorithm acts, in a way that someone who was just hired on by YouTube a couple months ago in their audience development department doesn't have that level of understanding, or are being fed things that have existed within the company for years. And at this point, YouTube is, yes, it's an algorithm, but it's a neural network that teaches itself. And it's a neural network that is teaching itself based on watch minutes. And when watch minutes are all well and good, but when all YouTube creators and brands are getting paid off of views, and that's the metric that, you know, the upper management is judging the success or failure of something on, those matter. Like, those are ad impressions. And it's one of those things that, sure, this might be the neural networks that is optimizing for watch minutes, but we need to optimize for minute-to-minute views.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
and it's the thing that YouTube itself over the years, and sometimes they'll admit this in various ways, not in what you're describing, but they'll talk about how they will sometimes say things like, well, you guys do know the platform in this way better than we do. Not everything, but certain elements of it, because things get built with data in mind for YouTube as a whole, not for the creator community.
Correct.
And that's also something to always remember. Every decision is irrelevant to the creator community, so you have to figure out how does this change apply. And so even I remember talking to them in the beginning of all of this, where they were making claims that like nothing really changed, and they didn't understand that the recommended part of the homepage has been there for so long, and you've now been defaulted to that homepage for so many years, that there is a gigantic multi-millions of people that have never known a YouTube that didn't have that as their homepage, and they legitimately think that's their subscription area because they didn't. That's all they've ever known, and YouTube did not realize that this change was going to so drastically change audience behavior because that was where it was, and they still are a little teeter-tottery about it, but I think they've realized, we are seeing now that across the board, everyone's recommended views went way down for the channels that were having this problem because of what the change that happened.
That was what we, like, one of the things that we were talking about back then, and I guess it's still to this day, it's just like, but there was a thinning out period almost, that like, if you were Liza Koshy, like, just gonna keep everything.
She's great. I love Liza.
If you're a Liza Koshy, you're going to have this moment that when that happened, your amount of people that were coming directly to you and obsessed with you and watching every video that you're putting up, like they're always going to be trying to wait for that, and they're waiting for that moment, and because it's so like the thing right now. Anybody that was more on this level of going, oh wait, these are people that are just used to going to their homepage to watch this person's content, or people that were even smaller and like not as much. There was this balance of how obsessed of viewers do you have, and how shareable
and how many years can you sustain that? And that's why a lot of legacy channels have had a lot of trouble in this, and that we were hit very hard in the very beginning. There was almost 30% dip in views. So when you're having